What is up, diehards? Welcome to the Die Hard MMA podcast. It's another Monday, and we are ready to rock. Coming off of UFC Vegas 40, we're talking about UFC Vegas 41 this evening. The numbers are getting up there. We're just going to have to struggle along with the UFC to keep track here. How is everybody doing this evening? I see G Fonz, Grateful Dude, Joseph Nassim in the house, Rex Lee, Aiden Jones. We've got Lou Diamond Phillips and a early donation from my friend for the next bottle of Fireball. I might need it with this weekend's card. Thank you very much for the donation supporting us here at Pub Sports Radio, my friend. And you're right, I am going to need a bottle of Fireball for this week's card. Manuel the Machine in the house, Soldier Boy, Genova 7, Brian DFS by the numbers, rocking the t-shirt comment, Dan Goldstein. We've got tons of friends of the show, Toby Kinsella, Swoosh Plays Games. How's everybody doing this evening? Love to see the chat popping this early. All right. We've already got about 40 live viewers here in the chat. I am pumped up. As you may have noticed, little bit of a controversy. I am not wearing the blue Die Hard Stimulus Check t-shirt tonight. When we come off a winning night, we wear the blue Die Hard Stimulus Check shirt. Most of my wins this week came from live bets, so just to not anger the gambling gods, I'm going to go ahead and rock the black this evening, the Fireball and popcorn. Boy, I am pumped up. I am ready to go this week. I've got an awesome guest for you guys, one of the sharpest minds on gambling MMA Twitter, somebody who I've been interacting with for quite some time, and took me too long to have the man on the show. So y'all are in for a treat this evening. My guy, Andrew Goombas at Bets and Picks MMA. Andrew, how you doing tonight?
What's up, bro? Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped up. This is one of those ones for me. You know, I've got a list. I've got a hit list of MMA Twitter personalities that I need to bring on the show, and you've been one that I've had circled for a long time, so glad we finally got it going tonight.
Yeah, me too, dude. I appreciate it.
All right. I'm stoked. We've got, as always, a card. Maybe not the best card. I wish I could say it was, an epic card with, big time stuff, but needless to say, I think you and I will be able to find some things to talk about for the people this week. Don't you think?
Absolutely. Hey, if there's fights, you and I could chop it up.
That's what's up, man. How'd you do last weekend?
I got crushed last weekend, dude. I was on freaking everything wrong, I felt like. So ready to bounce back this week. So let's crush it.
Let's do it, man. I'm 50-50 there with you. My pre-fight reads, they weren't so hot, man. I ended up doing pretty well, like I said, in the live betting last week. Got on Nate the Train after round one, seeing that he didn't die to the first couple punches. I got him plus 310, and that basically made my night for me. I think my best call from last week was I strategized to bet Luana Carolina after she dropped the first round. I was driving home from visiting my parents for the weekend, and I didn't get home until after round 2. So I got her at plus 200 live. I'm sure the number was better after she dropped round 1, and people were expecting her to just die in the second. So missed out on a little bit of value there, and I'm a little frustrated with that. But hey, can't be betting and driving, right?
Yeah, God forbid. Some bets just aren't worth it.
Right? I think I'll give up the $1.50 of value to get my kid home safe.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's dive straight on into this freaking thing. Kicking the night off, we have got Livinha Souza taking on Randa Markos, and this is a terrible picture of Randa Markos. Fans of the show know that I have a weakness for the redheads, and they got to update that picture on Tapology because she hasn't gone black on the hair in like 15 years. So shame on you, Tapology. Get you a new picture of Randa Markos up. Man, I got to tell you, before we even get into like breaking down these fighters, the strengths, the pros, the cons, Randa Markos may be the number one fighter in the UFC that has cost me money.
Yeah, I've lost a fair amount of money on her as well. I think I had her in her last fight. I had her. Who was the fight? It wasn't against Dern. There was one either right before that or after that I had. But I've lost money betting on Markos a couple of times.
Yeah, man. I mean, she's just on such a rough run. 1-6 in her last 7. I'm honestly shocked that she's getting even another crack here at the UFC. The problem is when you look at what she does or what she's capable of, like at her high points, she's got all the skills she needs to be winning some of these fights. She just makes awful decisions in fight. Like, she's a good boxer. She's a good wrestler. She hits decently hard. She's got okay submission defense. Like, if she could just put it all together, I think Randa Markos could actually be a solid fighter, but she just makes some of the worst in-fight choices I think I've ever seen. Now, Livinha Souza on the flip side of this thing, she's coming off a bad knockout loss to the future GOAT, Amanda Lemos, and she was simply outsized in that fight, man. She never got going. You know, if you go back and watch it, she was on the back foot the entire time. Fight didn't last more than a round. When Livinha Souza gets going, I like her game plan, man. She is mean. She's nasty on the floor. She throws with big intent. She's got a big right hand, heavy top game, good submission defense. She's a strong grappler herself. The thing for me in this fight is, once again, I am extremely tempted on Randa Markos because we've got essentially a pick'em line with Randa Markos being a slight dog. Livinha Souza has a 40% takedown defense. Now, if I could just confirm that Randa Markos was going to shoot takedowns, I think she looks like a minus 500 favorite on Saturday, but she probably goes out there and tries to strike with her. So because I can't trust her, I don't know that I can bet it. How do you see this fight playing out? Do you have a play on this one?
Yeah, so no plays on this one at the moment. I think if you got Markos at like plus 125 earlier in the week, that's probably not a terrible spot, but very unenthused about this fight. I think it probably plays out predominantly on the feet, where Markos probably is a little bit better volume, but Souza hits harder. So I kind of just see it being one of those close fights. It likely goes to the scorecards where Souza hits some. Souza hits like, yeah, exactly. Souza hits like a truck where Souza lands some big shots, but Markos might land a little more. I think we might see one of those classic WMMA split decisions.
Yeah, I don't hate it, man. Personally, I've got a big, just, I guess, emotional investment on this one with the way Randa Markos is coming off of her last fight where her opponent absolutely acted up and took the biggest DQ win I think we've ever seen besides Aljamain Sterling. I just hope she wins. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see her get her hand raised. And I think because of that, I don't know that I can trust myself to make a good bet on this one.
Fair enough.
All right, man. So first fight of the night happens to be a pass for both of us. Andrew's saying it's going to a split decision. I'm probably agreeing. I'm going to go ahead and lean Randa Markos, but at this point, no bet from me either. Yeah, Peter, we're close to a cent bet on that one, buddy. We're close to a cent bet on that one. Second fight of the night, we've got Jeff Molina. Oh, you know what? Actually, yeah, we've got Jeff Molina for the second fight of the night. They mixed up the order on me. Taking on UFC newcomer Daniel Lacerda, I believe. I'm probably butchering that pronunciation, but man, Andrew, I'll go ahead and let you lead this one off, man. Do you have any thoughts on this fight?
Yeah, so there wasn't a ton of tape on Lacerda. I think I found like 3 or so of his fights. They all ended in the first round. I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he's either never gone to the scorecards or very rarely. I'm going to double check that right now. But yeah, so he's had 12 pro fights. None of them have hit the scorecards. So I think the best way to play this fight, I don't know why fight doesn't go the distance, is plus money. Once that's more widely available, I plan on hitting that. But from a money line perspective, it's kind of tough to cap Lacerda, as I haven't really seen him get out of the first round. So it puts a lot of extra question marks in there. I'm not going to overcomplicate this one. Likely won't have a money line play. I think the best way to target it is playing the under 2.5. Fight doesn't go the distance, depending on what books you're on and what you're leaning in that.
Okay. Early violence bet. I love it. We've got Jeff Molina. He's sitting about a minus 170 favorite. The comeback on Daniel is plus 145, plus 150, somewhere in that range. And El Jefe, Jeff Molina, honestly, man, one of my favorite fighters coming out of Glory MMA. Good footwork. He strikes well moving backwards. He's got nice snappy kicks. He likes to attack the legs and the body, and he's one of these guys that just touches you constantly. You know what I mean? Like, he's not going to load up and throw gigantic power at you or anything like that. He'll just keep on tapping at you until he gets the kill shot, and then he sits down, and he's got solid power when he decides to really go for it. I think the biggest thing about Jeff Molina, like most of the Glory MMA fighters, though, man, is he's an absolute dog. Like, he will fight for your money once you get in there. So I like backing Jeff Molina. I think he's got some serious upside in the future. I think he's going to continue to improve. And like you mentioned, this Daniel kid, there's not a lot of tape on him. It's really hard to tell what we're really getting into here. From what I can see, he stands tall, he stands long, he likes to walk people down. He's got a very creative kicking game. He's got kind of a karate style side kick. He likes to attack the legs. I've seen him throw some spinning heel kicks, which, I mean, who doesn't throw spinning heel kicks on the regional scene? But I have seen him kind of lose his mind and throw hands wildly when he gets in tight. And I think that's the kind of opportunity that Jeff Molina will absolutely take advantage of. The only problem is it seems like Daniel is extremely dangerous. His finishing ability on the regional scene, at least, has been solid. So I'm kind of with you there on the violence bet. I think that's the way to look at this thing. If I got to pick a fighter, I'm going to say Jeff Molina, but I don't know if I like the minus 175 price tag.
Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, if you put a gun to my head, I would say he wins just because we've kind of seen more of him. We've seen him against proven competition, but a lot of question marks on the Lacerda side.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see. I'm actually a huge fan of fading fighters when they take that first step up in the competition, or when they first make it to the UFC, especially if they're coming off the Contender Series. I like taking the angle of fading those types of fighters, but there's just so little out there on Lacerda that I don't know where exactly I'm going to find the hole to take advantage of. So, yeah, I'll say favorite or pass on this one.
I'm with you.
All right, man. All right. So moving right along, it looks like our next fight is a banger. We've got Khama taking on Jai Herbert. Now, I'm a big fan of both of these guys, and I have attempted to back both of these fighters very recently, at least in their fights very recently. Khama is a guy that just kind of stormed onto the UFC scene, man, and he immediately caught my attention. I have this unquenchable love for these terrible fighters with knockout power. Like, that's just I get attracted to them for some reason. So I love the finishing upside of a guy like Khama, but he is a live and die by the sword type of fighter. He's been knocked out a lot, and that durability is something that we've seen him crack too many times, in my opinion, that it's getting harder and harder for me to consider putting money on him. I like his overall ground game, but after coming off of being, knocked out by Otman Azaitar and KO'd dead by Jamie Malarkey in his last two fights, like, you got to wonder what's left of that chin. And Jai Herbert, he's going to have a 3-inch reach advantage here in this spot. He's got slick footwork, man. He is nice on the feet, likes to cut angles. He's got that reach advantage. He knows how to use it. And I actually backed him against Francisco Trinaldo a couple fights ago, and I have PTSD from that knockout because he was well on his way to winning that decision before maybe one of the most awkward knockouts I've ever seen. He just gets tapped right on the dome, and it's like an anime scene where his body shut off and he didn't realize he was dead yet, like the way he fell over after that punch. So I got to worry about his durability as well. And what we've seen from Jai is he gets stuck on his back. Even though he works with a guy like Leon Edwards, he doesn't seem to have much of an answer for the wrestling. So Khama in this spot is a plus 145, plus 150 underdog. We've got minus 175 or so on Jai Herbert. And I feel like Khama could look like a minus 500 if he decided to wrestle here. The problem is, I know he's not going to do that. So what do you think about this fight, man? How do you see it playing out?
Yes, I think you hit on a lot of good points. I was actually on the opposite side of that Trinaldo versus Herbert fight. Felt like I kind of dodged a bullet there. Trinaldo had some success early, but Herbert really impressed me in that fight. I mean, Trinaldo has been a solid mid to high tier guy in the UFC for a long time. Herbert's light on his feet. He's long. He's rangy. Both these guys coming off 2 finishing losses. From a technical standpoint, I think Herbert's much better than Worthy. Worthy has that power, especially early, but he's kind of susceptible to getting hit. And I think this is probably I think this is definitely Herbert's easiest UFC matchup compared to Renato Moicano and Francisco Trinaldo. So I like Herbert in the spot. I haven't played the money line because I feel like a finish in this fight happens at a very high clip, and I feel like it happens very early. So I don't hate the under 1.5. at plus money in this fight. I don't hate fight doesn't go the distance. I'm going to look to play some more specific props when they come out. I was just checking. I don't see them right now, but maybe some Herbert KO1, some under 1.5. I think are both pretty solid spots. I think he gets to finish, and I think, unfortunately, this will be the last that we see of Worthy in the UFC.
I can't disagree with anything that you said, man. I definitely like Jai Herbert in this spot here, and I do believe that the violence bets are in order this week. I think there's going to be probably more interesting totals than sides for the most part on this whole entire card, if I'm being honest. I can't trust Khama Worthy to wrestle, and even if he does, I can't trust him to do it for 15 minutes. We've never seen him come out with that kind of a game plan before. And like you mentioned, I think Jai Herbert is just far slicker on the feet, and we've seen him keep people at the end of his range with those punches. I do think that he catches Khama Worthy at some point. I think you're onto something there with that knockout. I think you said plus 105. Is that right?
I saw the under 1.5. I want to say it's plus 116, which I think is not bad. Fight doesn't go the distance, minus 240. So,
and then Herbert inside the distance, I'm seeing about even money. So yeah, I don't mind that at all, man.
Neither do I.
I like it. All right, so far we're pretty well in agreement. We got about 140 live viewers, man. So first off, thank you everybody for hanging out with us here on this Monday night. We are talking UFC Vegas 41. This is my guy, Andrew. He's at Bets and Picks MMA. Make sure you give him a follow over on Twitter, our special guest for this evening. Real quick, I got to shout out my sponsors. Goat Capital Sports at Goat Capital _ over on Twitter. I always have the degenerate NFL and NHL action for you guys. You know that if you follow me on Twitter. But if you want to bet anything else, baseball, basketball, I can't help you. Goat Capital Sports, on the other hand, can. They break down everything and they give free play, or not free plays. They do free plays sometimes, but they have very reasonably priced packages. So make sure you hit them up with the no risk guarantee. It's a $25 weekly rate, and if you happen to lose that week with their picks, they will refund you the $25. So check out at Goat Capital _ on Twitter. Let them know I sent you. Next fight coming up, man, a rescheduled booking. Laureano Staropoli taking on Jamie Pickett. And we broke this one down a couple weeks ago. All of us in the Twitter sphere talked about it and went over and over on it. And oddly enough, there doesn't seem to be all that much movement. Staropoli is a minus 250 favorite, plus 200 the underdog, Jamie Pickett. And I don't want to go too in-depth because, like I said, we talked about it just a couple of weeks ago. But I'm still just absolutely flabbergasted at the trust that people have in Leonardo Staropoli. Like, maybe you can tell me something that I'm missing here, but I feel like he is undersized at this weight class. Even though Pickett has a rough run in the UFC, 1-4 if you count the Contender Series, he is a real 185er. He's got a long one too. He's got good footwork. I know he likes to play the outside, and that never plays too well with the judges. But when he pulls the trigger, the dude is deadly. And Staropoli, I know he's durable. I know he's tough. But his striking isn't really anything that I'm in love with, and he basically runs even with everybody he's ever fought. Significant strikes landed 3.64, significant strikes absorbed 3.85. So I'm not sure what is the cause for him being a minus 250 favorite here, Andrew. Can you tell me something? Let me know what I'm missing in this spot.
Yeah, so I actually went into tape the last time for this fight thinking I would like Staropoli, thinking he was pretty safe as a favorite, but came out of it not really. I came out of it thinking it was dog or pass. I'm probably going to end up passing, though. Like, to your point, Pickett size advantage is huge here. I want to say he's like a 9-inch reach advantage in this fight. I don't have it in front of me, but this is just one of those spots where it's like, yeah, maybe if they strike, Staropoli is a justified big favorite, but Pickett has come out and shot takedowns, and with that size advantage, I think he might be able to have some success with that here, considering the fact that Staropoli struggled with dealing with takedowns in the past. So I'm likely passing. I feel like maybe if it keeps getting wider, I don't hate a shot on Pickett just due to that size and that possible wrestling path. And hey, he lost to the GOAT, the Beverly Hills Ninja, so we can't really hold that one against him.
Hey, I don't care what anybody says, man. The Beverly Hills Ninja can kill any man alive in the first 30 seconds of a fight. So
Facts. Absolutely.
he's my favorite glass cannon. If he gets in there and touches you, man, he is a destroyer. So I don't hold that too much against him. And man, so here's the thing. Most people watching this show know I am not a professional sports bettor. Professional sports bettors snipe spots that they find good value on and consistently look to make the right move every single time. While I'm improving, while I'm trying to get there, I am also a degenerate, and I've got to have action on every single UFC fight night. That's just the way it is. On a better UFC fight card, I probably would not bet that fight, but I'll be honest with you, man. I'm searching for spots on this card. I might be talked into a dog shot on Jamie Pickett just because of the lack of opportunity at UFC Vegas 41.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be a bad idea to kind of wait on that one. Just reading the line movement right now, I'm seeing kind of him touching that plus 205, plus 200 in some places. So I could see that keep going, but I also wouldn't shock me if people kind of see them staring down at weigh-ins or kind of know people who come in later in the week. Sometimes are more focused on stats. They might see that crazy big reach advantage. So hopefully the line keeps trending in that direction. You can get a good price on it.
Yeah, I mean, I can't turn down, plus 230, plus 250. If it just keeps on heading up that direction, it's going to end up having to be something that I play. I think you had a good point touching on the size difference. Like I said, that's something we talked about the last show where I did break this one down, is that Jamie Pickett's just so much bigger than Staropoli that, yeah, maybe Staropoli is the more active striker. He might even be the better striker. But if this thing hits the ground, we've seen Staropoli get stuck there. And when you've got a guy that cuts to get to 185 on top of you, I don't know that he's not going to win 2 of those 3 rounds. And if you give me plus 250, I'll take the stab. I'll throw the dart.
Hey, I wouldn't blame you on that one at all.
All right. Glad I got a little bit of backup there at least, man. Next fight up, one that we're all very interested in. Tabatha Ricci taking on Maria Oliveira. Now, Tabatha Ricci is one that everybody got mad at me for. Now, Andrew, last week, I picked Norma Dumont and about broke the internet tweeting out a sexy picture of her for the fight pick on Twitter. I learned my lesson. We picked a more PG photo of Tabatha Ricci, and people got mad at me for it. So I got to find a happy medium here.
You can't please them all.
gotta pick one. Go sexy or not at all. Anyway, Tabatha Ricci 5-1, Maria Oliveira's 12-4, and I just gotta say, man, Tabatha Ricci goes by Baby Shark. I love it. I'm sorry, that's one of the best MMA fight names. You have DFS in the chat, knows what's up. Baby Shark in the house. I need to do like a top 10 fighter names ranking list or something.
I was about to ask you, what's your favorite, just off the top of your head?
Yeah, I got to tell you, man, it's the Cuban Missile Crisis. That's got to be the best fight name, period.
That's funny. Yeah, no, that's a solid one. I think mine, just off the top of my head, is probably actually Paige Van Zandt. I think 12 Gauge Paige is a really cool nickname.
I got a soft spot for the ones that rhyme. They roll off the tongue just so nice.
Uh-huh.
And I know he got killed over the weekend, but got to go old school, man. Ryan Darth Bader.
It's another good one.
It's just solid. It's hard to beat.
Yeah, no, that is very good too.
All right. So Tabatha, she got jumped into the UFC, man, if we're being honest, right? She took her first fight in the organization, short notice, upper class, against Manon Fior, of all people. Which, by the way, Locke better be listening because I'm trying to pronounce that name correctly from now on since he gave me a French lesson last week. And in that loss, Tabatha Ricci showed that she is game as all hell. There's fighters who belong in that weight class that would have taken less of a beating before tapping out against Manon. So I am very impressed with Tabatha Ricci's willingness to stay in there and dig deep and continue to fight even when she's on the back end. Good right cross, nice level changes. Her biggest factor is the grappling, right? Dominant transitions, heavy top game, likes to hunt for those submissions, good positionally sound. And she's taken this fight back in her natural 115 this time. So I think those are all good things that point to the Ricci side of things. Now, Maria Oliveira, she's tall, she's long. She likes to walk forward, heavy on her feet, snappy kicks. She likes to attack the legs, and she hits those things hard. The biggest thing is she's a fish out of water on the ground. This is a striker versus grappler spot, and she absolutely struggles being put on her back. Now, she lost to Maria Rodrigues on Dana White's Contender Series. After that, though, she put together a couple wins to get her to the UFC. One of those wins was over an 0-1 fighter. The most recent win was like a backyard bum gym fight over an 0-0 fighter who she TKO'd with a body shot. Dude, I am not sold that Maria belongs anywhere near the UFC, and I think this is exposure time for Tabatha Ricci. I think she's going to take her down. I think she's going to choke her out. How do you see this fight playing?
Yeah, I think that's a pretty solid analysis. I think also that's a pretty likely outcome. I haven't played anything on the money line yet, but I'm hoping to get a decent line on Ricci by submission. Like plus 300 would be really nice, but even like plus 250 would be fine. This is interesting, but like I was watching Maria de Oliveira, I think that's her name. But so her last two fights, to your point, against like 0-0, 0-1 girls, and I didn't think she looked that impressive in them. And I was like, oh, Tabatha's gonna roll this girl. And then I went back a little further to like her most recent losses when she was like 21, 22. And even like in a first round loss to Marina Rodrigues, I thought she didn't look that bad, which is pretty funny. Like I actually thought she looked better in those losses at like age 21, age 22 than she did in those wins against like 0-0 fighters, like age 23, age 24, which is kind of different than you'd expect. You'd expect people at that age to be making improvements. But this is a little bit of a weird one for me because if you look at Tabatha Ricci's record too, I mean, she's a bit of a can crusher herself. So I think Ricci's going to win. I'm not dying to play her money line at minus 235. I'm hoping for a good line on sub, but outside of that, I'm probably going to just watch this one from the bleachers.
Okay. Fair enough. I don't mind taking a little bit of a reserved approach in certain spots. I'm maybe a little too bullish, but I did go ahead and parlay her. I don't like these super wide lines. And I think you hit it right on the head that she's a bit of a can crusher herself. So I'm not saying that Ricci is going to be this dominant force going forward or anything like that. But this fight, yeah, I think this one's tailor-made for her skill set.
What odds did you get on her?
You know what? That is a great question. I ended up getting... I want to say she was right about minus 200. I have it on my phone, which is also my camera, so I can't pull it up for you right this second. But I've got her parlayed with somebody later on in the card, and I got about plus 108 on it.
Cool. Yeah, I was gonna say if you got minus 200 on her, I don't think that's bad, especially because the line's like minus 235 now. So if you're getting 30 cents on that money line, I mean, you're winning.
Yeah, and I know it's not necessarily best betting practice to pick a winner. Like we always got to be looking for the line value, making sure we're getting the best of it, that kind of a thing. But at this point, I just think, like I said, this is a good matchup for her. Her strength is her opponent's weakness. I think she gets it done. As this line climbs, I don't want to lay minus 300 on her, but MMA is a win-loss sport, man. Sometimes you just got to take the winners and stick them together. And if you're getting even money on two people that should get it done, every once in a while, I got to go with that strategy.
I hear you, bro. I don't blame you.
All right. Shout out to Salamander Man in the chat with the donation. Thank you very much, my friend. Keep up the great work. Love the picks. Also tell the people that you love them. I love every one of you tuning into this show right now. So thank you very much, Salamander Man. I appreciate the support. We got about 180 live viewers here. Smash the like button for me. Let YouTube know that you enjoy the content so we can keep it coming to you for free. And make sure you follow my man Andrew on Twitter. Next fight up, Jung Young Park taking on Gregory Rodrigues. The Iron Turtle welcomes Obama to the UFC proper. And this is a fight that, we talked about a couple of fights on this card being bad, I guess, as far as like the money line is concerned. This is maybe the most competitive, best fight available. We've got a very close line. Ji Young Park, actually, it looks like it's been driven to a pick'em. I got minus 110 on either side over at FanDuel right now. Ji Young Park opened up as about a minus 145 favorite or so. They were giving you dog money on Gregory Rodrigues. If you took that early, you probably got the best of it, but now you just got to pick your side. Man, Gregory Rodrigues impressed everybody on the Contender Series. And then he made it to the UFC and he won a 15-minute decision, took all the hype right off Dusko Todorovic. That dude is big. He is powerful. He is strong. He's a high-level jiu-jitsu player. He's got good counter-striking, but he's a little slow and plodding for my liking. Ji-Yoon Park, this guy seems so, I don't want to say unimpressive. I guess unassuming might be the better way to put it. He just does everything with such high fight IQ, it looks like he's doing nothing. He kills people with his jab. He's got good footwork. He just kind of keeps you at distance. He mixes in the wrestling. He's very positionally sound. So if this thing hits the mat, I expect him to know exactly what to do. He knows better than to be underneath Gregory Rodrigues. I feel like Rodrigues is definitely got the higher upside for the finish, but I also feel like Ji-Yoon Park is the kind of guy that can do everything just right to shut him down for 15 minutes and make this the slowest, sloggiest fight of all time and win a decision if he really wants to. Andrew, talk to me about this fight, man, because I think I'm kind of leaning with snatching the value in a buy low spot on the Iron Turtle now that the line is closed.
Clint, we were just talking about some of the best nicknames in MMA. I think the Iron Turtle has got to be up there.
Got to give him props. It's a good one.
That's a solid one. But yeah, this is actually the first fight I taped on this card a couple weeks ago because I went into this thinking I would really like thinking I would like Rodrigues in this spot. I didn't like it so much post-tape. I think a pick'em's kind of about right. To your point, I mean, you pretty much nailed it. I think Rodrigues has a lot of finishing upside, but Park probably could win some minutes here with a jab. It might be one of those situations where Park's landing a little more, Rodrigues might be landing a little harder. If if Rodrigues gets on top, he obviously has dangerous jiu-jitsu. I bet Rodrigues in an LFA fight at like plus 200 right before he got signed to the UFC. He killed the guy right away. And then I thought I was outsmarting everyone. I was like, oh, I bet him at plus 200 against this guy. And then he comes to the UFC against Dusko Todorovic. I hope I'm saying that right. And I bet the other side there, thinking that I might be able to bet. That's my favorite thing to do when I beat you with someone, and then I beat you against him too. So like, you get what I'm saying? Like where I bet on him when everyone else is on the other side, and then I bet on the other guy because that line came down a ton. I think Todorovic was a super wide favorite at first, and that line came all the way down to like minus 135. And I was like, oh, you guys missed out when he was plus 200 on some regional guy, and now I'm going to get you here. But didn't work out in my favor. So Rodrigues is a solid fighter. I think Park's a little underrated too. I mean, anyone who got on him as a big dog in that last spot in his last fight was solid too. But I think Pick'em's about right here. I don't have any crazy strong convictions. I know I don't have a ton of action so far on this card, but don't worry, I've got a couple stronger takes coming on the main card, or the main fight, I should say. I'm not sure what's on the main card and what's not.
All right. No problem, man. This is, I kind of tried to lead off with that a little bit early. No problem. People are always going to want to, want fight picks. They're going to want bets. They're going to want action. But the reality is you can't always find a bet that you like. You know what I mean? And as long as you're trying not to just hand money over to your bookie every single week, sometimes passing is the best option. And man, people thought last week's card was bad. This is the week that I'm really struggling as far as finding a spot to bet. So I think we got to be very, very careful this week. A penny saved is a penny earned in this game. So sometimes just got to take it off.
Amen to that.
Yeah, man. So, all right. I think, now that, like I said, now that this line is closed down, I'm a big favorite. Or I'm sorry. I'm not a big favorite. I enjoy kind of fading the market sometimes. And especially when you get a spot kind of like this, it's two angles that I like to use at the same time. When I like a fighter, when the bookies like a fighter, and the market tells them they're wrong, and you get that value, I love that spot to begin with. And then I love fading Contender Series fighters. We just saw Gregory Rodrigues have a couple of really great performances. So the world couldn't be higher on everything Gregory Rodrigues can do right now. But I think that Ji-Yoon Park is consistently underrated. And this is a spot where, like I said, on the feet, he's going to have the faster hands. As long as he can keep his chin safe, which we've never seen that thing cracked before. I think he can just jab and move his way to a win very much like he did against Stefan Njokuyi. And then once this thing does hit the ground, I know Gregory Rodrigues is probably more explosive. Maybe he's physically stronger, but I think that Jung Park is the more technical wrestler. Now, Rodrigues may be the better BJJ player, so of course he could snap something off once it hits the ground. But anytime it's comparable, I always feel like I side with the wrestler. A wrestler with good submission defense in the UFC seems to do better than the BJJ player if they can't find that gap to get a submission. You're kind of playing with fire there. It's like betting against Francis Ngannou, but more often than not, the wrestler seems to be positionally sound enough to grind his way out, don't you think?
Yeah, I think generally speaking, you're probably right about that.
You know what? I'm going to need to go back and get some numbers because I think I'm right. I have nothing to prove that is correct, but that's kind of the way I tend to lean. So we'll see. You know, as always, give me a follow on Twitter at Diehard MMA Pod. That's where I tweet out my official picks and bets by the end of the week. So as of now, nothing, but I might end up playing GM Park by Saturday.
Hell yeah.
All right. We are burning straight on through this bad boy. Negumereanu taking on Ike Villanueva. That is a mouthful. I've been practicing my Negumereanu for the show, but when you run it right with Ike the Hurricane afterward, thought I was going to stumble a little bit. Kind of impressed with myself. Man, this fight is recency bias all day. I love it. I absolutely love it. So Nick is one of these fighters who, how are we going to figure this guy out? He comes into the UFC. It's 2019. And he gets absolutely smothered by the most fraudulent OV in UFC history. Safarov is a guy who beat nobody except this dude in the UFC and has been just god-awful the whole time he's been here. So Nick ends up coming back after a long layoff, COVID and all that stuff, and he's a gigantic underdog his first fight to Alexa Kamer. Now, I am not a big Alexa Kamer fan, right? I think he's overrated. I think we're going to have plenty of opportunities to bet against him in the future, and I was this close. I don't like betting on fighters when I don't have recent tape to like see what kind of form they're in. I was this close to betting on Nick. In fact, I think I picked him to win, but I didn't have the balls to actually sack up and put the money on him. And sure enough, he pulls the upset over a fighter that I think is overrated, and now he's minus 260. Like, how do you go from being off everyone's radar, a giant underdog, to a contender series disappointing fighter, to now you're a minus 260 favorite? Now, I know Ike Villanueva is not someone that people are running to the window to back, but he's got good boxing. He's more than willing to stand and trade. And when you give him the type of fight that he can survive in, he can knock people out. I can crack, man. He's got good hands. And if I do say so myself, this is perfect matchmaking. Like, shout out to the UFC squad, because this is going to be a great fight. Nick walks forward and just relies on that chin. He just wants to get in your face and turn this thing into an ugly, ugly brawl and just go to war. Ike does the same thing. And if it wasn't for Marcin Prachnio going to the discount shop and buying himself a new chin, I'm still confident that Ike would have knocked his ass out. So I actually think this fight is much closer than the odds would suggest. I'm extremely tempted to go back to the well with my guy Ike. But much like we talked about earlier in the night with Randa Markos, Ike has cost me a little bit because of, we talked about the Beverly Hills Ninja, that cut stoppage, man. Ike lost that night because of the officials stepping in and shutting it down. He lost because his last opponent found a new chin and hit him with a big body shot. I think Ike is live because he's always live the way that guy fights, and Nick's going to bring the fight to him. So this one should be fun. But I'm very tempted dog or pass here for me. Andrew, how do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, man, I think you nailed that, honestly. Two things. First of all, I had Safarov as a big underdog in that fight against Nick, so I'm going to give myself a little pat on the back for that one.
Props.
And then it's funny, when this fight got announced, I was like, okay, like I'll probably pass here. Ike Villanueva is just a guy I literally never thought I'd be betting on in the UFC, but here we are. He's definitely the better boxer here. I mean, you pointed that out as well. In his past few fights, he's had issues dealing with leg kicks. Nick's not really a big leg kicks guy. On the feet, I favor Ike straight up, and I think like the ways to beat Ike Villanueva are with leg kicks and with grappling. And Nikolai, or is that how you say his name? Nick Negumereanu, whatever. You know who I'm talking about.
Negumereanu.
Ike's opponent has mixed in a couple takedowns before, just in his last fight, but like he doesn't really commit to a wrestling heavy game plan. And like I struggle to see how he covers minus 240 here, honestly. Like Ike's the better boxer. And Nick doesn't really commit to that type of game plan to beat Villanueva. So I played Ike at plus 205. He's down to about plus 180 right now. So definitely getting some good line value there, which I'm pumped about. But I think Ike's the side. I don't see how you play Nick here at minus 200 something.
Man, that's all I needed to hear. Like whenever I've got a bad idea or I like to bet an underdog, chase these big underdogs. As soon as I get some reinforcement from a guest I trust, man, that's all I needed. So for anybody wanting to jump on, Ike is about plus 185 out there in the market for the majority of places, but it looks like at BetMGM they're still hanging a plus 200. So right after the show, I'm going to be locking in a plus 200 for myself on Ike Villanueva, and we'll be making that an official pick. I'll ride with you on this one, Andrew.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's go. Dude, I'm banned from BetMGM, so I can't even use
it shit
anymore. Yeah, they
cost them too much over there, huh?
They cut me off very quickly.
Well, I've been on a bit of a heater myself recently, so hopefully I don't run into that issue, but I'm sure I'm a much smaller fish, so I don't think I'll get cut off quite as quickly.
I don't know, dude. They were quick to pull the trigger, so be careful over there.
Well, that's why it's always nice to shop around, man. Have a couple of different books, got to have some options, and, just ride it where you can. I'm lucky enough I'll be able to snag that plus 200 for myself and not miss out too much on the market move. I love BetMGM, man. They're always behind the rest of the market. Anytime I'm like, I think I want to bet this guy, and then I check, and I'm like, oh, shit, the whole market has moved in that direction. It's going to be more expensive. You go to BetMGM. They don't pay attention to the MMA lines, and they always move them way later than anybody else.
Dude, 100%. Like all those legal books, like BetMGM, DraftKings, FanDuel, like sometimes are all late to the party to move lines. And like that's what I tell people, because I mean, like people who have followed me probably know this, but I'm like nuts about getting the best price. So if I don't get the best price on a fighter, like I go insane. So I have like 10 or 15 different books, and I'm always just like very, very strict about getting like the absolute best number out there. So I
love it.
Yeah, like 10 to 15 different books. And like I have a couple of those legal ones too, just in case like they're slow to move the lines. And like for Contender Series tomorrow, they opened Renfro minus 110 with no like limits on it whatsoever. And I bet like $5,000 on him. And
they opened at minus 110.
Yep, they opened at minus 110 with no limits on it. I could have cashed it out later that night, like within 12 hours for like a $1,500 profit. So it's just like they're just doing stupid stuff like that, and it's just like, guys, leave the line making to the pros, and then just copy their lines, because like they put up a minus 110 on Renfro, and Bet Online opens them like minus 300. It's like, okay, you could literally just like. I'm like, is anyone else seeing this? You can literally make free money right now if you have a DraftKings account and a Bet Online account. So I'm going to be earning tomorrow on Contender Series. I'll tell you that much.
I love it. Man, like I said, I was traveling this weekend, so I got to apologize to everybody watching. I don't have Contender Series breakdowns for you this week, so I will put a little asterisk next to Renfro. I'll be sure to keep an eye out for him when I do my breakdowns. I'm going to try and do my tape study and get into it this evening, but it looks like I'm going to have to parlay him if I want any value on that. There's no minus 110.
Yeah, that minus 110 was probably there for like 12 hours, and I was just like getting as much money as I could. And then on Armin Petrosyan, he's like minus 135 now, and I got him at plus 235, like same deal.
Wow.
I put like $4,000 on him plus 235, and I could just cash it out for like a significant amount of profit. Like if I wanted to, I could ride those out too. I mean, I'm getting like a ton of
absolutely. You crushed the line value.
Yeah, but I'll probably just kind of, I don't know if hedge is the right word, but I'll kind of just make it so I'm earning here rather than gambling.
Nothing wrong with locking up a profit, man. Especially if you're throwing around big numbers like that. That's where, hey, everybody in the chat, like I always tell you guys, I'm a degenerate, not a professional gambler, not my day job. This man throws the bucks around. That's why I bring these types of guests on the show for you, because he plays much, much bigger than I do. That's a perfect break in here, though, to our donation and shout out to the GOAT Tajik Bey. Thank you for hanging out in the chat, my friend. Always appreciate the donations and the support here. But he says, great show. See you guys at 10 Eastern, Narco Cops show. I did retweet these guys earlier. Tajik is going on with Narco Cop, and they're breaking down the whole Contender Series show for you. So for anybody that wants to get some info, like I said, I don't have it for you this evening. So pop on over, check their show out tonight. They'll be able to break down the whole card for you for the Contender Series tomorrow.
Hell yeah. And just to set the record straight, I'm not always throwing around five grand bets like that. I just knew I was going to be able to cash that out, so I was trying to get as much as possible. I'm more towards like the 500, 1,000. I'm not trying to act like I'm some hot shot out here.
I don't know, man. Even being in the 500,000 range, you're still pretty hot shit in my opinion. But you know what? If you're betting well enough to have a $5,000 bet available to you, you're doing something right.
Hell yeah. Let's hope I can keep it going.
We're all trying to get there, man. And hopefully, you know what? It'll just be Hurricane Ike taking us to glory on Saturday.
Ike Villanueva, take me to the promised land, baby.
Let's go. All right, man. Next fight up, one that I can't wait to get your opinion on. Dwight Grant taking on Francisco Trinaldo. We talked a little bit about Trinaldo earlier on in the evening when we mentioned poor Jai Herbert and that awful, awkward knockout that he took. Trinaldo's moved up to 185. I never thought I'd see that. He always seemed to be sized correctly for 155, even though he's an absolute tank. Like one of those guys that I don't know how they have that much muscle on their frame, but 185 fit for him. He seems a little bit undersized at 170, if I'm being honest.
Yeah,
but
I was about to correct you. It's a 170.
Oh, did I say 185?
Yeah, I was like, dude, this you could watch it back. You'll see my face. I'm like, this fight's at 185. I was like, holy shit. And so I went and checked on Tapology.
My bad. He moved up one class. He moved up to 170 from 155. That was a slip of the tongue. Not inaccurate information for all you, YouTube trolls out there that are going to attack me later for saying the wrong class. Trinaldo, he's just thick, man. Like up at 170, he has filled out. And he's taken on Dwight Grant, who, to be frank with you guys, to just lay it all out on the table, I had high hopes for Dwight Grant. When Grant came to the UFC, I thought he had the makings of a guy that could make a run, somebody who I'd be looking to back and put my money on with regularity. I like his boxing. He's got this really freakish body. He's got the shortest torso I've ever seen in my life, but the longest arms to go with it. Like, he's just so unusual, and he can crack. He hits hard, but he's been so disappointing. I have not seen the improvements in Dwight Grant's game that I expected or that I thought that I was going to see. Now he's 36 years old. He's getting up there. He's not getting any younger. Yeah, he is training with a good team. Shout out to my guy, James Lynch, that's always doing these fighter interviews and giving us little golden nuggets of information and stuff like that. But he's working with Alliance. So he's training with guys like Phil Davis, Dom. So he's with a good camp. He's with a good team, but I'm just not seeing it. And when you go back and you look at his record, he's got a really disappointing UFC run. He's 3-2 in the UFC, but 2 of those wins were by split decision. So he could very easily be 1-4 if we just got a different judge on any one of those nights. Francisco Trinaldo, on the other hand, fought a who's who of MMA down at 155. He's almost impossible to finish. He's got crazy durability, strong wrestling. He's physically powerful, good gas tank, especially up at 170. He doesn't seem to slow down because he doesn't have to worry quite so much about that weight cut. I've got a feeling this is kind of a buy low spot on Francisco Trinaldo, man. I feel like he's a fighter that's reached a higher level than Dwight Grant, and maybe Grant will get there one of these days. Maybe we'll see him step up and get a big win and move up the rankings or something, but we have yet to see it, and Trinaldo's done it. We've seen it. He's been there. We know he can do it. I feel like we're getting value on the better fighter at a very closely, reasonably lined price tag, in my opinion. -120, -130 for Francisco Trinaldo. You can get even money or +110 on Dwight Grant. I see a lot of love for Dwight Grant in the market. I'm kind of feeling like favorite or pass in this spot. Andrew, what do you think about this one?
Yeah, so I've went back to the well with Trinaldo a few times. I had him in his last fight against Salikov. I had him in the fight before that against Herbert, which I touched on earlier. This fight, I'm passing. I mean, Trinaldo is like 100 years old. He's definitely slowing down, I think. I don't love him up at 170. I think him being in a six-inch reach disadvantage here could come into play. And on the Dwight Grant side, I've never really been high on him. Like you mentioned, those split decisions. I was on Zach Otto against him back in like 2018, I think that was, and lost the split.
Yeah, that one
there,
sucked.
But, yeah,
I was on him that night too.
Yeah, but hey, I think I got him back with Alan Joban, so fair enough. Over 40, yeah, it's funny. Yeah, but I'm passing on this fight. Like Grant has power, but he can be low volume. Trinaldo, will he commit to the grappling path? Does he have the durability still at age 70? Does he have the cardio? Just not my type of fight to target. I'm cool passing on this one.
Okay, fair enough, man. Like I said before, I don't have a lot of spots I love on this card for betting. So I'm saying Trinaldo. I think Trinaldo gets it done. I think he's got the higher ceiling at this stage, but I'm not going to actually bet Trinaldo in this spot. I think he's going to win, but for all the reasons that you just mentioned, his opponent is slightly younger. Yes, J-Dog, the rule, we don't bet on fighters who are 40 or older unless we've got a damn good reason, and the damn good reason isn't here for me. I don't have a damn good reason. I do think the higher ceiling or the higher competition level for Trinaldo is a decent reason, but it's not a damn good reason. So I'm going to go ahead and pass, but I won't be surprised one bit when Grant gets taken down and grinded on or pressed up against the cage by this little human ageless wonder from Brazil that just decides to squeeze out a 15-minute decision.
Yeah, no, it's very fair.
Okay, so we're just both deciding to take a pass on that one more than likely. And now, you know what, man, maybe the people's main event coming up next. We've got Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, taking on Seung Woo Choi, my boy. Seung Woo Choi is a fighter who I feel like went undiscovered for a little while, man. I had this little golden nugget with Seung Woo Choi that I could back to glory, and then he knocked out too many people. And now the world knows all about Seung Woo Choi. He's on a 3-fight win streak. Alex Caceres on a 4-fight win streak. We've seen the man have a little bit of a rejuvenation. We've seen Alex Caceres get back on track here. He's got very creative striking on the feet. High volume. Bruce Leroy, right? Likes to be very creative with his kicks, dance around, do a lot of stuff. The days of us talking about Alex Caceres' submission troubles are kind of behind us. He's got 7 losses by sub, but he's obviously worked very, very hard on that ground game. He's been in a couple of sticky positions lately, but has managed to squeeze his way out of them. But you know what? His last 3 fights were against guys who either don't have a job in the UFC or were very low-level strikers. He fought 2 grapplers who he was miles ahead of in the striking realm. And let's be honest, the UFC wanted him to lose those fights. He managed to kind of dodge bullets by keeping the fights on the feet. He was supposed to lose to Chase Hooper, absolutely. The UFC wanted a submission loss on his record for that one. So I'm not overly impressed with the last 4 fights that Alex Caceres has won, because in my opinion, he's kind of been scraping the bottom of the barrel as far as competition goes. Seung Woo Choi, on the other hand, he made his debut against Movsar Evloev, dude. Like, talk about a rough debut. He steps into the UFC against Movsar freaking Evloev, who is going to be a top 5er. And then after that, he fought Gavin Tucker, Youssef Zalal, and even Juicy J, Julian Erosa. Now, I know people like to talk about Julian Erosa's chin, but he's another glass cannon. He's another dangerous fighter that can kill just about anybody on the feet or on the ground. So even though he's got that chin issue, not an easy fight whatsoever. I like Seung Woo Choi's hands. He's so tight. He's so crisp. He's very accurate, light on his feet. He's got great power, stiff jab, pinpoint accuracy, nasty check left hook. I think Seung Woo Choi is more than deserving of the favorite tag that he's got here in this spot. And I mentioned that parlay I had with Ricci earlier. This is my other just got to win it spot, man. I've got her parlayed with Seung Woo Choi. That gave me about plus 108 earlier in the week. That's a 2-unit bet for me. I know this fight might play out closer. I can understand the people saying there's value on Alex Caceres, but I think at the end of the day, Seung Choi is going to win the minutes. I think he's going to be walking forward, and the judges always like that more. I think he's going to be landing the more significant shots, and I think that's going to be something that the judges pay attention to. I do think at the end of the day, Seung Choi just gets it done here.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. It sounds like it's coming through your laptop though. Bear with us here, folks. It looks like we got a little bit of technical difficulties here for the moment.
Yo, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Can you hear me? Oh,
How about now? How about now?
Yes, there you go.
Sorry about that.
There's a little bit of an echo on it though.
Hang on. Sorry.
The beauty of live streams, folks. Bear with us just 1 second. This kind of shit happens every once in a while whenever you go live.
How about now?
Sounds good. I can still hear myself echoing on your side of things, unfortunately, but that's the only issue.
How about now?
Testing. Much better. There you go.
Okay,
that's it. I can hear you. Can't hear myself.
All right, cool. MMA betting, I'm pretty good at. Technology, not so much. So I'll hit on this fight real quick. I like Choi a lot. I've actually bet him in most of his UFC fights. I bet him again as a dog against Yusuf Zalal, which was a nice cash. I had him by decision against Zalal, which was nice. I like Caceres as a dog here. I haven't played it yet because I have a feeling just off the way I've read the market that this line is going to keep going up. So I think if you got on Choi early, the good news for you is you're going to get a good line on it. I think from a value perspective, I think this line should be a little bit closer. I do favor Choi outright, but if you look at Caceres' striking stats, he hasn't been outstruck at distance in his last 6 fights. All 6 of his last 6 fights, he's been the one outlanding his opponents at distance. And I think this Choi,
I'm sorry, that's too good not to put up.
Yeah. Dude, I'm gonna have to hire someone because I can't keep doing this. But yeah, I think the line's a little bit wide. If Caceres gets to like plus 250, I'll take a pop at it just because I think this is like, no matter how this fight goes, I don't really see it being like someone running away with it. Like I think the margins are thin, I guess, so to speak. So I think maybe like Choi minus 200 might be about right, or maybe minus 175 rather than like minus 300. I favor Choi outright as well, but I think Caceres is just kind of hard to look minus 300 against him in a striking fight.
Okay. And that's fair enough, man. And this is kind of to touch on what I talked about, a little earlier in the show. This is my just win spot. You know what I mean? I recognize that I think the line is a little bit wide, but I also think that Alex Caceres is a little bit fraudulent at this point in his career. We've seen what happens when he gets that step up in competition, and I absolutely believe that Choi is a step up in competition compared to what he's been facing. So even if it gets a little close, even it is a bit more, technical with people trying to play with each other on the feet, at the end of the day, I think Choi gets his hand raised.
Fair enough.
All right, a little bit of disagreement. Hate being on the opposite side of my guy Andrew, but I totally understand the line value there.
Hey, one of us is going to win.
There you go. That's a good way to look at it. Most of the chat seems to be with you there on that one. So next fight up, man. Jessica Rose Clark taking on Joselyne Edwards. And I can't believe it's this far up the card. This is something. This will be a fight on Saturday. We've got Jessica Rose Clark 10-6 taking on Joselyne Edwards, who is 10-3. And I guess my big thing with this one is I had to ask myself, man, what does Jessica Rose Clark do well? When trying to break her down and thinking about how we bet this, I'm sitting here going, what does she do good? What does she do good? Well, we've only seen her once since her long layoff and moving back up to 125. She's strong. She's very strong. She seems like she hits pretty hard, but she doesn't have the greatest technique. She's a decent wrestler. And that's about where the list ends for me. She fought a very low level of competition in her return fight. Absolutely butchered that poor girl. And here she is taking on Joselyne Edwards. And I really wanted to back Joselyne Edwards, man. I looked at this line immediately, and initial read was I'm going to jump all over Joselyne. She opened up plus 165. She's down to about plus 110, plus 115 now. She's a good striker. I like what I see on the feet from Joselyne Edwards. But you know what? She tends to drop her hands a little bit. She gets over aggressive on the ground. She's dangerous when she is on top, but she makes some bad decisions and scrambles. And when she got put on her back against Carol Rosa, she just had no answer. Now, I know she's training with Montserrat Ruiz over at King's MMA. You'd expect that grappling to get a little bit better. She's got a good lead left hook. And like I said, on the feet, she's pretty slick. But I feel like this is one of those spots where Jessica Rose Clark could just win being the more physical fighter. Like, she could just bully Joselyne Edwards in the cage on Saturday. She's going to be at a reach disadvantage, and I know that's a problem. But Edwards has a 37% takedown defense rating, and that reach only matters if you're on the feet. Talk to me, Andrew. Am I missing something on this one?
Yeah, so that poor girl who Jessica Rose Clark beat in her comeback fight beat Joselyne Edwards. So that's just a funny little tidbit. I know the timing was a little different, but I actually like Rose Clark in this spot. I bet her to pick him at -110. I think that's solid. I see she's like -130 on most spots, but I could see that line coming down again as well. I think Edwards, I've been pretty low on her. I bet against her in both of her fights. If you look at Jessica Rose Clark's losses, like, there's nothing to be ashamed about. Like, Penny Cans as a solid fighter, and I thought she represented herself well in that fight. Like, she didn't go out there and embarrass herself. And then Jessica she lost to as well, who was a title challenger at 125. Again, not that they're like Amanda Nunes, but they're solid fighters. Both of them, I think, would kill Joselyne Edwards. So I think Jessica Rose Clark's the better technical fighter here. I think Joselyne Edwards is big, and she could kind of take a beating a little bit, so she's going to be there late, even if she gets beat up a little bit. But I just think I got to favor Jessica Rose Clark here. I've got her at like -150, -175, so I was happy to bet her to pick them.
Bishar hits it on the head here. Semper pass. I'm right there with you. And man, kind of like I talked about earlier, where I like to fade the market when the bookies say somebody should be the favorite and then the market decides they're wrong. This is kind of one of those spots. I feel like I agree with that opener more than I agree with where the fight is now. And getting -130, it's not nearly as sexy as your pick'em price tag, but if I can hit that -130, that might be where I'm jumping on board for this particular fight. I think one of the factors that I want to mention is that doing my Instagram stalking, because of course I've got to keep tabs on people, where they're training, what they're doing. Jessica Rose Clark, she always has had a good gas tank, and she has been spending time with my guy Deron Wynn, taking wrestling lessons from none other than Daniel DC Cormier. I think that is a huge point in this fight, and that also points towards the fact that that might be her game plan and path to victory, that she's willing to embrace the wrestling here against an opponent who we know has poor takedown defense. So I think Rose Clark is the side. And as much as that just kind of sickens me to say, we talked about how low level this fight is, man. This card is, how there's not a lot of spots. Like, if that's one of my favorite spots on the card, it's a little scary, but I might be back in Jessica Rose Clark with you on Saturday.
Let's go, baby. Let's do it.
All right. I love it. Mr. X in the chat. Karma for the simp bet equals sharp bet. I like that. All right. The simp bets are officially sharp bets. Thank you very much for the donation, Mr. X. We appreciate it. Helping us support and give back to Pub Sports Radio, keeping the lights here on for those of us that bring you content every single day. Ryan Grant popping in with the t-shirt. No giveaway today, buddy, but I love it. Next fight up. We are getting to the end of this bad boy. Grant Dawson taking on Ricky Glenn, and I just tabbed off for you. My bad, people. Grant Dawson fighting out of Glory MMA. And honestly, man, he's got to be kind of their best prospect, right? Like, James Krause is known for taking these, I don't want to offend anybody. Remember, betting show, we're talking about these people and putting our money on them. Don't mean to offend anybody if this gets caught by a fighter or something. But a lot of fighters that may be a little past their prime seem to transition over to Glory. They kind of get rejuvenated over there. James Krause is an amazing mind and can do some amazing things with fighters who a lot of people may have counted out or given up on. Grant Dawson, on the flip side of this thing, I think is a legitimate talent. He's somebody who's coming up in the right place with a good team, with a good coach. He's young. He's improving. Like, he's their bell cow, in my opinion. Very, very strong grappler. He likes to attack the legs when he's on the feet. He's always looking to level change. His striking is basically built to open up that grappling, and that's something that you always like to see. He doesn't mind grinding up against the fence. Classic Glory fight game plan, slow the fight down, and he transitions quickly, man. When he has the opportunity to like pick a guy up and body them to the floor, he's on your back already. You gotta love to see that. Taking on Rick Glenn, who trains out of Team Alpha Male and came off a 3-year layoff and killed a man. So many people counted out Rick Glenn after that long layoff, and I was one that was a little too scared to actually bet on him just because we hadn't seen him in so dang long. But holy crap, he looked good. I mean, I know he was fighting Joaquim Silva, who's not the most impressive level of competition, but he absolutely destroyed him. Rick Glenn has fast, accurate hands. He keeps a high, tight guard, good big body kicks, and he just likes to walk people down. The thing is, I don't see him ever moving his head. He's very, very hittable. He has a 66% takedown defense rating, and he gave up 6 takedowns to Dennis Bermudez back in the day, which a chain wrestler should be able to take advantage of. But Rick Glenn did show a good defensive guard and a good get-up game after he got taken down in that fight. So it's really, really tough for me, considering Rick Glenn has had about 30 seconds of fight since that long layoff. We don't really know what kind of shape that he's in at this point. As far as his skills, his abilities, has he improved, or is he the same guy we've seen from all those years ago? I think Grant Dawson wins this fight via wet blanket, if I'm being honest, but minus 350 with those questions around what Rick Glenn is capable of. We know he's got some offensive weapons. I feel like it's a little too wide, and I don't really want to trust him at that price tag. Andrew, how do you see this fight playing out?
Yeah, man, I think you nailed that. I think Dawson's a justified big favorite, so I'm not going to play minus 350. I think that line's about right. I really like the matchup prior to this for Dawson, that he was supposed to fight CDF, which I think would have been a great matchup and would have been good for betting. Hint, hint. The time's going to come. The time's going to come where I get Grant Dawson when I beat Grant Dawson, but I don't think this is the spot. I think he rolls here. I think he, like you said, he's going to blanket him. Probably is live for his submission. And in the UFC, if you could chain wrestle / grapple / have sick cardio to an extent, like you're going to win your fair share of fights. And I mean, he's proven people wrong thus far. I cashed this is one of my favorite bets of the whole year. I had Grant Dawson round 3 at like plus 1,200 against Leo Santos, and he knocked him out with 1 second. Knocked him out with 1 second left on the clock. So that was a sweet one.
Dude, that's beautiful. And that sounds familiar. I know the fight you're talking about, and I can't remember if I had that round 3 prop myself or not. But the round 3 sprinkles, man, that's where it's at. People underestimate the round 3 sprinkles.
Dude, there was like 5 seconds left, and he was Santos was on his back, and he was kind of like holding a leg, standing up and punching him, and just like he kind of put him out with like a second or 2 left. I was like, let's fucking go.
It was so wild because he went from being like there and okay to just dead. Like that one shot just absolutely deaded him. That was good stuff. Good stuff. Oh, you know what? Real quick, man, I got a tangent here. Sneakers 219. I forgot to talk about this. At the beginning of the show, I meant to mention the Aspen Ladd Norma Dumont fiasco. Now, some of you may know, I ended up cashing out of my Norma Dumont bet. And honestly, guys, I've made peace with it. I'm not upset at it. I am not a results-oriented bettor. I like to admit when I have a good bet or when I have a bad bet and learn from that. I had decided by Saturday that I did not like my bet on Norma Dumont. I thought the fight was going to be much too close for comfort, not something that I wanted to have the amount of exposure to that I did. And so, yes, would I have liked to have that money in my pocket? Would I have liked to cash that ticket and have the extra cash? Absolutely. But I made peace with cashing out on that bet, and nobody expected Aspen Ladd to just not fight for 12 minutes of a 25-minute fight. The way rounds 4 and 5 played out, the way she was cage grinding and wearing Norma Dumont out, that fight will end very differently if she had started doing that in round 1. So I am okay with steering off of that one. So results-oriented, a little bummed I don't have extra money, but yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah, dude, that was bizarre. I did not expect that type of performance from Ladd.
So which side were you on that, Andrew? Did you have a bet on Ladd or Dumont?
Yeah, dude, I got Ladd at like minus 108, and then like
okay,
So I got a great line, but just a bad bet, which it happens. It's one of those situations where like I make my read and then I worry about getting the best number, and then the rest is in God's hands.
Yeah, man. And that's where I absolutely see why you made the bet. And the fight, I sounded like I had a crystal ball the way I broke it down on Monday. Like it couldn't have played out better based on what I said on last week's Monday show. But and I tweeted this, even with that original read on Norma Dumont, I never planned for the fight to go that way. I never envisioned the fight going like that. Like if Aspen Ladd had come forward and swung bigger shots or gone for those takedowns and Dumont had defended them and she jabbed her to death, like that's kind of how I saw the fight playing out when I was on the Dumont side. And at the end of the week, I went, that's just not going to be how this fight plays. And I thought there was going to be a lot more cage control. I thought there was going to be a lot more clinching. And apparently Aspen Ladd's coach did too.
Yeah, I had the same thoughts as her coach did in between rounds.
Yeah, man. That's the game we play, right? You never know. You absolutely never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, dude, it's funny you say that because there are some fighters like I've talked to before their fights. Like there was this, I won't mention his name, but there was this kid I was talking to. I bet on him on the regional scene. I can't remember if it was like CFFC or one of those events. And I basically laid out the game plan for him of like how I said, hey, dude, I work for Sportsline as an MMA analyst. Like, I'm betting on you this weekend. Like, I've done a lot of research on you and your opponent. This is how I see the fight going. I said he's a legit black belt, but he doesn't have the wrestling to get it there. He's super uncomfortable when you put him on the back foot. You're really good at doing that. So as long as you keep the pressure on him on the feet and don't engage to the ground, like you should really finish him in the first round. Like, hope this helps. Good luck. And he answers, he said, thanks for that. I appreciate it. And so I watched the fight. He goes out there. He knocks the guy down. The guy's waving him onto the ground. He says, nope. He brings him back to the feet, knocks him down again, does the same thing, brings him back up, finishes him in the first round. I texted him. I said, yo, dude, that was awesome. Congratulations, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, no, I appreciate your analysis, this, that, and whatever. And I go, hey, man, anytime a fighter is willing to follow the game plan for me, happy to do it.
Dude, first off, that's sick. Like, to get that kind of, inside track with a fighter is awesome. But the second thing, that's why I listen to fighter interviews. People like to make fun of me for putting too much stock into what fighters say. But when a fighter gives away the game plan, if you can read between the lines, you figure out what their intention is going into a fight, like, that's money. Like, because to stay away or to get on them if their mind is in the right place. And that's kind of like what we talked about a little earlier on with Jessica Rose Clark. She's been wrestling with DC, man. You think she's not going to put that into action? No, she's wrestling. Like, I think that's an easy way to find better spots to put your money.
Dude, I hope she comes out wrestling because Joselyne Edwards, my grandma would take her down if given the opportunity.
Oh, man. Yeah, wrestling's got to be pretty awful if that's the case. All right, man. Main event time for the people. First, we need to take a real quick break here and hear a word from our sponsors. All right, back at it, everybody. Welcome back. Make sure you smash that like button for me. Subscribe if you haven't already. I'm joined by my guy at Bets and Picks MMA on Twitter, Andrew Gumbas, to break down UFC Vegas 41, and it is main event time. We are talking Paulo Costa taking on Marvin Vettori. This is a potential number one eliminator type of fight here. on Saturday. Very, very interesting matchup in my opinion. One that I'm really, really excited for. And if you're on TikTok, I made a pretty great one today, so make sure you check that out. Man, Paulo Costa, 13-1. This guy disappeared after he lost to Israel Adesanya. Talked mad shit coming into that fight. Did nothing. Got his ass whooped, and then had to take a year off to get some hair implants. Like that's who's coming back on Saturday. Marvin Vettori similarly just got handled by Israel Adesanya, but at least he is back and active. We've seen this guy being very active the past couple of years. In the first fight, he arguably gave Israel Adesanya the best fight he's had besides Jan Blachowicz in the UFC. And we've seen what Marvin Vettori does. He's one of these guys that you can just count on for the game plan, right? You know what Marvin Vettori is doing every single time he steps into the cage. Chain grappling, looks for the submission. He's got decent striking, but he's always looking to use that to pin his opponent up against the fence or change levels and get them to the ground. Paulo Costa, one of the most ridiculous physiques I think we have ever seen. This man is explosive and destructive when he hits absolutely anybody. But because of that, we have slight questions about his gas tank and his volume and how long can he keep it up, because more often than not, he kills people in the first round. Now, I know he had that war with Yoel Romero, but that's kind of the only opportunity we've seen him really keep any kind of pace and keep going. And he didn't show us anything against Israel Adesanya. So I have a lot of questions that need to be answered about Paulo Costa. I did bet on Marvin Vettori at -130. I got 1.3 units on him here with a 25-round main event, man, a guy that's never been cracked. Marvin Vettori is an impossible man to finish. I just don't see Costa being the first guy to put him down. It's possible. It's like betting against Francis Ngannou. If Costa comes out and he lands clean, he can put anybody away, because we know he sure as hell is not clean, if you know what I'm saying. But I think that Marvin Vettori's gas tank is going to take this fight over.
Yeah, so I think you nailed that. I came into this fight thinking I was going to bet Paulo Costa here. I even taped Paulo first and even left his tape thinking I'm going to bet him. And then I got to Vettori, and he really pleasantly surprised me on tape, for lack of a better term. Like, this was the first time I watched like some of the Adesanya fight like at a bar, but no, he didn't. Sorry, that was crystal clear as day. But anyway, yeah, I think Vettori didn't do terrible against Adesanya. I think Adesanya is just a brutal matchup for him. Like, I bet Adesanya the first time against Vettori. I bet Adesanya the second time against Vettori. Vettori here, I think you have to give him a big edge in cardio. You have to give him an edge in the wrestling. And you have to give him an edge in the grappling as a whole. And I mean, Paulo Costa probably has about 8-9 minutes to get it done here, but I think after that point, it's going to be all Vettori. And one last thing about Vettori on tape, his striking was actually better than I remembered it. Like, he's not a bad striker by any means, and I like his activity, I like his cardio, I like his grappling. So I actually am leaning the other side. I think Vettori is the side. I haven't played it yet. I was really hoping for a better price. I think that -130 is solid. I wish I was able to get in on that as well. There was a point earlier in the week where he was like -118, -120, but like it seemed like the money was coming in on Costa, and it was kind of too early to tell. And then I just waited a little bit too long. So hoping that price comes back down, because I'd love to get Vettori at that -130 mark that you have him at. I think he's going to win this fight. Also, for those of you who like to sprinkle some props too, I think Vettori round 4 and Vettori round 5 are really solid spots. I see that on FanDuel. Vettori round 4 is +2,200, and Vettori round 5 is +2,900. And Costa round 4 is +1,800, and then Costa round 5 is +2,200. There's no way that there's a better shot that Costa finishes him in round 4 or 5 than Vettori. So I think those are two solid props if you're looking to sprinkle that.
Hey, I was going to shout out my boy Leon here. Absolutely nailed it. It's been a while. The main events have not been ones that I have loved. I was the master of the 3, 4, and 5 round sprinkles for a while there. I had every single main event. There was a fighter I liked to get that later finish. It's been a bit, but this is the one, man. We're bringing it back. I think Vettori 3, 4, and 5 is just the spot, because I think he's going to wear on Costa. And after you get all that lactic acid built up in those muscles, eventually you slow down. And I know he's not a guy that you knock out, So what you do when you've got a durable dude that refuses to go to sleep, you choke them out. I think it's going to be a submission finish, and I'm saying round 4 Vettori sub is the way I see this thing playing out.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. I think Vettori's going to wear him down. I think he gets him out of there late.
That's fantastic, dude. So I know every once in a while the people in the chat hate when my guest agrees with me, but I got to tell you guys, I don't really care because Andrew's one of the sharpest minds in the MMA game. So if we are in agreement on this sketchy ass card, I might have more action than I expected to coming into the evening.
Let's go. Yeah, no, we agreed on most of the fights, but what was the only one we didn't? Like Caceres and Choi, I think.
I think Caceres Choi is the only one, and you did also say that you were waiting for about a plus 250 line on it. So kind of a disagreement. Yeah. I think I've got the favorite in a parlay, so just need him to win, not really paying too much attention to the line value, and you want the dog a little higher before you pull the trigger. So we're both kind of in the same space.
We'll count it just for the sake of having some disagreement.
That's right. We got to disagree somewhere. All right, man. Hey, you know what? First and foremost, thank you very much for coming on the show. This was an absolute blast, man. Let's run through real quick since it's kind of sporadic as far as what we've got. Can you recap the bets that you've either got or already made for this card?
Yeah, so I have Ike Villanueva plus 210. I have Jessica Rose Clark minus 110. And from a money line perspective, those are the only 2 bets I have locked in so far. I like the Herbert Worthy under, haven't hit it yet. I like the Tabatha Ricci sub if the line is right. And I like Marvin Vettori, but I'm waiting on a better line. And lastly, I like Caceres, but I'm waiting on a better line. And thank you for having me, dude. This was super fun.
Hey, man, my pleasure. It was a blast. I've got the Ricci Choi parlay 2 units at plus 108. I've got Marvin Vettori at minus 130. Thank you, good old MGM, for dragging your feet on moving the line there. That's how I got that one. And I'm going to, oh, you know what? While you were talking, I do have Ike at plus 200, so I'm in on that one. And I'm probably going to try and snag that minus 130 on Jessica Rose Clark before it gets out of range on me. I completely agree with your violence looks from earlier in the evening, and this is going to end up being a fun little card after breaking this down with you.
Hell yeah, dude. Let's get after it. Only a few more sleeps.
Just a few more, man. And speaking of which, there's plenty of action going on during those few more sleeps. Make sure you check out that Dana White Contender Series show this evening right here on Pub Sports Radio. Make sure you check out my guy Jimmy hosting the early show tomorrow. Of course, Ian Cameron, Connor Mack, Razor Sharp, all the personalities breaking down the other sports that you've got. I've got the Total Takedown coming this week, the Undefeated post-weigh-in show on Friday. Of course, the live stream with the boys, my guy Billy, my guy Locker Room, Boston Nick, MMA, Jacksonville Zoe. You know all the names. I'd go breathless trying to get them all out there. And of course, Andrew, unless I'm mistaken, you've got a show a little bit later on this week coming out as well, don't you?
Yeah, so I recently kind of started getting into this. I would only do podcasts as like a guest or something like that, like someone like you would have me on. But so first I started my own channel where now just like every Monday or Tuesday, I do like a 5-minute breakdown of the main event. And then I started working for Sportsline. So every Wednesday I do a show with Jonathan Coachman called The Early Edge, where I give like my 3 or 4 best money line bets for UFC card, Bellator card, whatever's coming up. Then on Thursday, Magic MMA and I have our podcast that we started recently, and we're actually having UFC featherweight Damon Jackson on, which should be a fun time. So if you guys want to tune into that, it's Thursday at 9 p.m. We'll be doing kind of a live stream style, just like we have right now. But yeah, so I enjoy doing this stuff. I mean, you clearly like have a sweet gig going on here. It seems like you have a great community of people here. So hoping to build the same.
I love it, man. I've got the best community. I have beaten into these people that I'm a positive person and don't beef with anybody and don't start shit, and we're always trying to lift each other up. It's us against the bookies, and because of that, some of the absolute best fans on the internet today have kind of circled around me here. So we've got the best community, and if anything at all, I want to send as many of them your way as I can, man. Make sure you follow my guy Andrew, because he's a good one. I may be entertaining and loud and obnoxious and do shots, but he's a really good bettor. So make sure you follow him and get his takes on these fights. That'll do it for the show this week, everybody. Andrew, is there anything else you want to shout out, let the people know before we wrap this one up?
No, man, I just want to say thank you once again. Like I said, it seems like you have a great community here. You're killing it. So keep up the good work, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.
We will absolutely do it again sometime, man. And everybody, I have a high stakes Monday Night Football fantasy football game that comes down on this particular event. So I'm going to go get some dinner and bounce and watch that football game, see if I can pull a win out of my ass, because I'm 2-3. I need to get to that 0500 record here. Thank you again very much for joining us, Andrew. You all have a wonderful week. Good luck on your degenerate action, and let's roll.
Thanks, Clint. Take care, everybody.